Thank you, worship team. Will you guys please give a round of applause for our wonderful worship team? Lydia, Jenny, Lisa, thank you guys so much. They pour their heart into this worship time, and I just really appreciate all that you guys do. I wouldn't want to do Refresh without music, because music is what speaks to my heart the most. So, Diana Williams, she's got a couple different characters after her name. MSN, FNP-C, IFMCP, board-certified nurse practitioner, owner/founder of Strategic Wellness Center and Strategic Med Spa in Hickory. Originally from the upstate of South Carolina, Diana moved to Hickory to attend Lenore Ryan's nursing program and is a 2009 graduate. After nursing school, she worked as a critical care nurse at Catawba Valley Medical Center. She graduated in 2014 with an MSN with a board certificate as a family nurse practitioner. She worked in traditional family medicine until she founded her career in functional integrative medicine, where she focuses more on a wellness-based healthcare model instead of illness-based. She's married to Alan, and together they have 3 daughters, Everly, Aniston, and Amelia, and her son Jack left his earthly home to be with Jesus. She views her business as a ministry opportunity where she feels called to help women feel their best and achieve wellness in order to have more energy, motivation, and desire to serve God and their families. She is pretty much a boss babe. I don't know if you guys know that term, but she is. Diana, we welcome you. You guys, please welcome Diana Williams to the stage.
Usually get a lot of speaking engagements that are to this big of a crowd, so this is quite intimidating. I can't see any of your faces because the lights are so bright. So I think you're still out there, so if you make funny faces at me, I can't see them, so go right ahead. All right, so I appreciate you, the introduction. Don't be intimidated by those letters behind my name. I had to pay for all of them, so it's not that special.
You paid for those letters?
I did pay for those letters. Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and be honest with you. I am not the most polished speaker that's out there. I actually do better kind of speaking from the heart than from the brain, because after 4 children, I don't have much of a brain left anymore. So when they asked me to do this speak, they asked me kind of what you want your topic to be on, and I'm not really sure. I can be honest, though, I'm basically a jack of one trade. I know almost nothing else other than what I do know, which is wellness, and particularly women's health. It is a passion of mine. I feel like that I'm certainly called in this area to use my gifts and my knowledge as a ministry to minister to other women, specifically women who are dealing with illness, essentially. So my professional title, yes, I'm a board-certified nurse practitioner, certified in functional medicine as well. But my home job, obviously, as you saw earlier, I've got 3 little girls and my son who is waiting on us in heaven, and then my wonderful husband, Alan, to support us. So like I said, the only thing I do know is wellness, but I didn't grow up knowing wellness. I actually found my way to wellness, or God actually helped me find my way to wellness. You know, I kind of joke, he didn't just open a door, he opened the door and kicked me through it. I had to go through a lot of painful days in order to find what wellness meant to me. So that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight. That title, New Year, New Year, I'll be honest with you, I hate that title. It's like one of the most gimmicky marketing things. You're seeing it all the time on Instagram. You know, it's a new year, it's a new opportunity to start fresh and start new. Well, you know, I don't know about that, right? I mean, I think every day is an opportunity to kind of like grow and develop yourself in the Lord. And you don't have to wait till January 1st and to be able to do these things. But it's a title, so we're going to kind of keep moving forward. Finding wellness in 2023, that's our goal. So I think I'm missing a slide here. I'm not sure what happened to it. Let's see if it got moved around. It did not. That's okay. So I was going to talk just a little bit about kind of what strategic wellness means to me. It is my place of employment. That's what I started that company about 5 years ago. I started working in traditional medicine and loved my job. I was ministered and mentored by 2 amazing physicians who hired me straight out of nurse practitioner school, God-fearing men, very biblical-based men, and had the opportunity to work and learn, you know, traditional medicine under these men. And what a great opportunity it was. And I love my job. I love what I did. I love my patients. But I had something stirring in me that was telling me that God was leading me down a different path. And I begrudgingly listened to that. But it took me a lot of pain to get there. So I didn't know what wellness was. I had to learn through my personal journey what that looks like. Oh, you have the other slide. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now in strategic wellness. You know, I'm busy throughout the day running with my 3 kids at home, and then when I go to work, I'm being chased by 7 wonderful women who actually try to keep me in line. It's a lot of fun. We've had a lot of growth over the years. God's blessed our business a lot. But like I said, we're there for a ministry. We're there for a reason. I really believe that if you can help, specifically women, we see, you know, men, women, and children, all the spectrum. But particularly women is my heart and my soul. It's what I love to do. I really feel like women who can get their energy back and get their mojo back and get their brain functioning better, they're going to be better equipped to do God's work because he has called us each and every one for a specific purpose, in a specific reason, in a specific timeline. And I do believe that if we are our best physical selves, mental selves, spiritual selves, then we are more equipped to do that work. So what we do is we help women find their what? What is the thing that ails them, right? We help them find their why. Why are you going through this journey? Why do you want to feel better? And we help them find their way. The next slide. So this is me ill. This is not Diana that you see today. This was about, gosh, the timeline now, probably about 7 years ago. I had just had my second daughter, Aniston, excuse me. Aniston's my second daughter. I had some symptoms when I was pregnant with her. Just didn't kind of generally feel well, and I kept kind of blaming it. They kept saying, you know, it's just pregnancy. You're not supposed to feel good, right? I was fat and swollen and just super tired all day long. Started having some heart palpitation. My hair was falling out, and then my skin just literally was horrific. You know, I can certainly relate to people who have chronic pain, but chronic itching, there is something intense about it. You know, this was debilitating for me. I couldn't leave my house. If I was going to go see clients, I had to put, you know, gloves on before even walking in the room because my hands were so swollen I couldn't get my rings off. I was absolutely miserable, you know, waking up in the middle of the night, scratching. There was blood all over the sheets when I woke up. So the skin thing, it was an autoimmune condition. It took a long time to diagnose. I treated it very traditionally. You know, I was supposed to take antibiotics and topical steroids, oral steroids. I did all the things that you're supposed to do, right? It made me worse and not better. So I started thinking, you know, gracious, you know, if I can get to the root cause of what was going on with me physically, then I think I can heal my body, and then my symptoms will go away. But the skin symptoms were the only external thing that people could see that I was not well. There was a lot of things internally that were going on. I was having panic attacks that started out of the blue. Never had anxiety before. Started having panic attacks. I'd go in and see a patient, get myself together, go to my office and have a mini panic attack, and then have to go see the very next patient. Digestive issues, hair loss, chronic debilitating fatigue. I started withdrawing from my social events, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't see friends. It was humiliating. I was super embarrassed. So that was what illness looked like for me. When I found wellness, and I had to think outside the box. I did try everything I was supposed to do to get to where I needed to be, but out of sheer desperation, I cried upon the Lord, and I said, listen, I know that this is just a skin issue. I know that there's people out there that are dying from cancer, and I'm sorry I'm taking your time talking about my skin, but I'm absolutely miserable. Can you please help me? And I gave it to him. He led me. It wasn't a miraculous healing, although that would have been wonderful as well. But he led me to that path of what we call functional medicine. So finding the root cause, addressing the things that were broken, nutrient issues, gut issues, hormonal issues. And after making some very hard, very necessary life changes, within about 2 weeks, my symptoms were 90% clear. So the other side of the screen, you can see, it's kind of where I'm at today, almost 100% skin clearance. And I still battle with autoimmunity. I still have to worry, you know, try to keep my immune system in check. But much better, you know, from where I started. So I said, hey, you know, if this can work for me, it can work for anyone. So I started trying to practice more of natural functional medicine in my existing job. It just didn't seem to work out. The model didn't allow for the time that people need to really talk about what's going on with their body to really get to the root cause. It takes a little time. So God wanted me to start strategic wellness. I started with the back room of the compounding pharmacy, just me and myself and I. I was the janitor. I was a clinician. I did a little bit of everything, but that was a very humbling experience for me, and he has blessed us because we remained faithful throughout that journey. So if we can identify the root cause, right, like what are we really looking to achieve? We're really looking to achieve wellness. Like what does that mean, wellness? You know, Crystal did a great job defining that for us. But wellness, you know, Oxford definition, it's a condition obtained when a person achieves a level of health that minimizes the chances of being ill. So wellness is not really just the absence of illness. It's not just the absence of a disease. It's a continuum, right? It's a journey. Wellness is not really a destination. It's just a journey that you're on. Wellness is achieved by a combination of emotional, environmental, mental, physical, social, and spiritual health. And the Bible tells us it's mind, body, soul, and we understand that very well. So in physiological and biological terms, we in healthcare call this wellness homeostasis. It's when the body finds its steady state. It finds its norm. So like a good example of this would be like a temperature change, right? Most days, if you're healthy, your temperature is going to be 98.6 degrees, right? If you're sick, if you're dealing with an acute illness, your temperature is going to raise. That's your body trying to fight off the bacteria, that virus, and then eventually it's going to normalize back down. Some people live in a chronic state of very low body temperature that could indicate something else is going on in the body, like thyroid issues or immune system dysfunction as well. But if we're at that homeostasis, we feel good and our body is functioning normal. So our body is constantly trying to maintain this state of homeostasis. Body system, biology system-wise, I mean, on a biological, biochemical level, this takes a lot of stinking work, right? There's hormones, there's cells, there's organelles, there's electrolytes. All these things have to be in perfect balance to obtain homeostasis. If you really look at how the human body works, it is extremely complex. We still, in 2023, don't understand a fraction of what we do know about the human body is a fraction of the complexity that we were created to be. So, if something extremely complex like the human body, it needs organization. It needs a great design. It needs a great plan in order to be and stay well. Well, if there's a great design, there's a great designer, right? The Lord created us, mind, body, and soul, to be in perfect balance. So if we're really going to get to that state of wellness, it's holistic, like Crystal was saying. Like, you got to look at all of them. You can't just fix the physical stuff. You might get a little bit better. I've had a lot of patients that will come in and they're a wreck. All the labs are off balance. We spend 4-6 months getting them back in balance. Labs are looking better. Some of their symptoms improve, but they've still got something there that just is not being dealt with. They still have this physical ache, pain that they can't get rid of. And almost always, if we evaluate further, it's something spiritual in them that they have not been able to work through. A trauma, a major loss, or just a lack of practicing that spirituality with the Lord. So when we're well, when that homeostasis is obtained, it's beautiful. It really is a beautiful orchestra. And the orchestra and I don't know music at all. That's another thing I don't know anything about. But I think there's woodwinds, and then there's something else, and then there's something else. But if all the musical instruments are all in perfect balance, it is a masterpiece, right? And Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we, us human beings, are His masterpiece. He's created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things that He planned for us long ago." We are His masterpiece. We want to be well. He desires for us to be well, and He gives us the necessary tools that it takes to be well if we will receive them. Our bodies are a gift. It's an investment, and honoring our bodies is an act of obedience, but it's also an act of worship. We are created in the image of God, and He dwells within us. So whatever we expose our bodies to, Christ is there too. We are intelligently designed. We weren't created like a simple child's toy that with overuse and overplay, it just breaks, right? And we have to throw it away. Our bodies were much more complex than that. We can feel pain. We can grow. We can develop. But we can also bruise, and we can also heal. Our bodies were designed to actually heal themselves. But like a really good investment, if we treat it badly or we endure injury or we just neglect it, then that wellness can be taken from us. And it's not just about life, right? It's not just about living, breathing, having a heart rate. It's about living well. It's about a quality of life. It's, the lack of that, you could live a life with disabilities and still not feel well. So what does wellness actually look like? Again, body, soul, spirit. Body, soul, mind is kind of what the Bible says of what wellness looks like. But this is just a little bit more of a graphic. This is the human way of trying to further categorize wellness. And this is kind of similar to one of the models that I use with my clients. So there's social wellness, if you're getting out and you're getting into community, you have friends, you have people that you can relate to. That emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, obviously, intellectual wellness, what are you feeding your brain? Physical wellness, that's movement, environmental wellness, how many toxins are you exposed to? Financial wellness, and then occupational wellness. So kind of looking at this scale, and this is another kind of practice I do with my patients, but what's your number? Like 0 to 10, right? Well, I'd say 1 to 10. So 1 is like you're just barely getting out of bed in the morning. You're miserable. You feel bad. You're not practicing your spirituality. You're not practicing your relationship with the Lord. You're not moving. You're just basically breathing, and that's about it. And a 10 is thriving. It's like you are in the best you that you've ever been, and that's what you're seeking to maintain. I don't typically see people that are 1s. I don't typically see people that are 10s, right? But somewhere on that journey, somewhere on that continuum is where most of us do fall. Another question I like to ask is, like, if nothing changes, like if you don't invest in your body, if you don't invest in your mind, your spirit, where are you going to be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? Are you already on that slow kind of illness fade where your number is going lower and lower and lower? Are you practicing those basic principles of obtaining wellness so now that number's already improving? So if we can define wellness, we need to be able to define what's the opposite of wellness. It's disorganization. It's total chaos. It's clutter. It can actually be darkness. It's you canceling appointments with your friends. You don't want to be out socially anymore. You start withdrawing. You can't seem to be a good friend to other people. People don't seem to like you like they used to. You can't maintain that community. Financially, your finances may be in disarray. You're in debt up to your eyeballs. You can't seem to keep a job. Or you're falling victim to spiritual warfare, that habitual sin, that addiction. That is illness, and that is one of the key ways that the devil uses to kill, steal, and destroy us. Physical symptoms. It's where we kind of live a lot in my daily work. Is things like weight gain, appetite changes, physical aches and pains, hormonal imbalance, energy concerns, digestive issues. You just don't feel good. You feel kind of crummy, and then of course anxiety and depression. So again, root cause, right? We're trying to find the root cause here. What's causing us to be ill and not well? So I would say a lot of times it's major stressors, and that's kind of where we're at in 2023, and this is probably a biggest root cause for me anyway, is like taking on too much and getting overwhelmed and not having the resiliency to deal with that stress, not having an outlet of self-care to help you manage that stress effectively. Poor nutrition, I mean, this is very common. Like, most of us know what good, healthy nutrition looks like. There is, a lot of times lack of good nutrition is just for convenience sake. We're tired. We don't want to cook tonight. It's easier just to go by McDonald's and pick something up. Totally get that. I'm a busy mom. I can get sidetracked on some of those things as well. But it really is about balance. And by the way, this is not meant to shame anyone or judge anyone because, I've been there. But it's about trying to find that balance in your life. Lack of movement, being a couch potato, obviously, being exposed to a lot of toxins in the environment. There are a lot of toxins that we are constantly breathing in and putting in our skin every single day. Women especially are a lot more susceptible to those daily toxins because they're endocrine disruptors. They mess with our freaking hormones, and we are our hormones. So if our hormones are not balanced, the ugly comes out, right? Infections. We are human beings, and every living being is susceptible to getting, parasites and viruses and bacteria. Unfortunately, sometimes those things can be chronic, and they have to be dealt with. Inflammation. Every single chronic disease out there has a root cause of an inflammatory reaction in the body. So inflammation is swelling. That swelling can go anywhere in the body it chooses to go. A lot of times we feel those symptoms of swelling, and what do? We shut it up with a medication or a Band-Aid or something like that. But when it becomes more of a chronic issue, that's when we got to start saying, hey, something else is going on here. We really need to kind of pinpoint how to treat the issue and not just the symptom. It's kind of like you step on a tack, right? And you go to the doctor's office and he's like, oh, okay, here's an aspirin for the pain, right? Well, it may help a little bit, but if you don't take the tack out, the problem's going to start brewing. lack of community and isolation. I think that this is really what a lot of us are dealing with today. It's really hard to plug into community. It's really hard to maintain that community involvement. It takes work. It takes energy. It takes practice. We've got so many things, being busy mamas, that are pulling on us. And we feel shame and judgment if we put our kids in childcare and go invest in our relationships and our friendships. And I'll tell you, it's so important, especially, the biggest killer of COVID is the isolation that it's caused in our people, in our communities. And I really do feel like that we have got to break through those boundaries and get back to loving each other. We're one of the few countries in the world that don't live well in community together, right? What we do is we graduate high school and we move away. Sometimes we come back, but then we get married and move away and start having kids all over the world, all over the United States, right? Well, most other countries, they have 2 or 3 different generations living in the same household to help each other. It really does take a freaking village, and it's okay to call on friends and neighbors and family when we're overwhelmed and we need help. That is not something that we should feel shame for. I think that it's better to kind of wave that white flag and say, I need some help here. I need some support in calling on each other. It's what we're meant for. Prioritizing others' needs instead of our own. I see this all the time. Women are the worst. There's a reason why things like heart disease and things like cancer and things like autoimmunity attack women significantly more than they attack men. It's because we're doing too much. We're constantly, by nature, giving to other people first. We give everything to our children. We give everything to our spouse. We give everything to our community, and there's very little left to help maintain ourselves. This is the basic principle of being on an airplane. So one of the first things they go with the security thing, what do they tell you? What do they tell you that the security with on the airplane? It's all right. You got to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help anybody else, which is so not natural for us, right? But it's important. If we're going to take care of our friends, we're going to take care of our family, our communities, then we have to support our own physical, mental, and spiritual health. And this is where I want to spend a little bit of more time today is the trauma, physical, emotional. I think that we'd probably have a hard time finding someone in this room that's not been exposed to some traumatic event. And it's how we choose to deal with that trauma that is going to impact our wellness. It's going to impact our healing, essentially. Trauma is real. A lot of times, there's childhood trauma, there's generational trauma, and that old saying of, hurt people, it's real. And I think that that's how the devil uses us to hurt other people, to kind of keep us in this loop of shame and guilt and sadness and illness, essentially. But trauma also brings a lot of shame. I've gone through my own trauma. Most of you know my story. Some of you may not. I got a phone call 4 years ago this October, that changed my life forever. I was working, and my nanny had my 3-year-old son, Jack. I had asked her to bring him actually to the office lunchtime. I was really missing him that day. Something in my mama heart said, just love on your boy today. So I called her. I said, can you please bring, I'm super busy. I can't leave work, but I need you to bring him up here. Let me just nurse him real quick. I just really want to be with him. And so she did, and he was super happy. He was so excited to nurse with his mama. And then I passed her back off. She took him home. And about 3:30, 3:45, I got a text message, and it was, there's an emergency. I need you to call me. And I could tell from the text that it was misspelled words, and I could tell that there was something urgent going on. So I called. I said, what's going on? The nanny was hysterical. She said, Jack's not breathing. So I, panicking, left work, left the door open, couldn't drive, couldn't even figure out how to get to my car. It was just this total fight or flight, right? Didn't even know where I was going. So I grabbed my health coach and said, you got to drive me. We get behind the ambulance on the way home, and the ambulance had already turned his lights off. So I knew something wasn't good. So Jack passed away that day. He was already gone before I could get home. So I didn't really get a chance to say goodbye. Didn't really get a chance to plead over him. But he's in heaven, and there is a lot of potential responses that I and my husband could have had to that situation. Our natural kind of bent was to blame God and blame ourselves, right? The shame that was there. Why wasn't I home that day? Who hires a nanny? Why couldn't I be home? Why did I have to work that day, right? If I was home, that everything could have changed. So the shame was something I had to work through. And so a lot of times, just reading the research, because that's what I do, very few marriages survive a loss of a child. So me and my husband had an opportunity that we're going to cling to each other and cling to the Lord, or we're just going to push each other away. And we knew what the Lord wanted from us. And I honestly, having trouble physically standing after those first few days after he passed, my husband was physically carrying me to the bed, to the living room, and helping me in several different, just with personal care. And all of those days are very much a blur to me. And I think that, my counselor explained it. It's kind of that fog of grief, and that's almost a gift. Not remembering every single moment that happened was super hard. But God showed up in very real ways. It's my first and only experience that I've ever experienced that true darkness, that sin had come into my house and taken something so important to me. And it just rocked my world, and not really understanding how to go about that. I kind of feel, this is not to be sacrilegious at all, but the feeling that Jesus had on the cross, where he felt so alone and so that sin separated him from the Lord. That's how I felt. I felt very separated, like, where the heck are you, Jesus? I never doubted that he was still present and that he was involved, but I couldn't see him. I couldn't feel him, and I could not hear him. And so looking back now, he knew that I was going to have a hard time holding on to him during those moments, but he sent what my husband calls Jesus in the flesh. We had 10 people, one of which physically ran to the hospital to meet us the night that Jack passed away. 10 people praying over this and protecting us and loving on us and just bringing us food and everything. The whole church was just surrounding us. Those kind of things remind me that God wants us to heal and that God wants to be present in the very darkest times that we have. So, actually, that's probably the first time I've ever had the opportunity to share that story in person. So I appreciate you letting me share that. But, again, I could hide this trauma and I could just bottle it away and never talk about it, right? Or I can use it to help other people with their healing. And I do believe that, a lot of people that come to me and they're healing, they're physically hurting, they're emotionally hurting, they've had trauma, right? And now I can empathize with them on a level that I wasn't able to before. So he brings beauty from ashes. He always does. So we've kind of talked about finding our what. Our what is wellness. Finding our why. We haven't talked about that. We're finding our why right now. So why are we doing this? Why are we talking about wellness? Why is wellness important, right? Why are you doing it? And I think that this is something you have to evaluate. I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it because God has called me to do it. I'm doing it for my clients. I'm doing it for my community. I feel like if I am a healthier me, I can be a better servant of the Lord. Luke 12:48 says, to whom much is given, much is required, and he has gifted us with wonderful, beautiful bodies, and we are required to do his work through that. So then we got to find our way. So we talked about what illness looks like. We talked about what wellness looked like. Again, probably nobody here is a 1 or a 0, right? But you're probably not 10s either. So wherever you're out on your journey, like if you want to improve upon that, there's several realistic ways for you in order for you to do that. Number one, you got to listen to your body. Ask it. Well, what are you trying to tell me? If there's a symptom there, if there's a that subconscious, that Holy Spirit talking to you that something's not healthy and it needs to be removed or amputated, listen to it. Don't ignore it. Ask for and receive that healing. Like if the Lord is wanting you to heal, you can't just say, okay, God, just make me feel better, right? Give me more energy so I can get through the day. You have to lay it at his feet and actually receive the healing that he so desperately wants to give you. Constantly focus your time and your energy on the things that make you well, that are uplifting and encouraging, not the things that are toxic for you and that bring you down. And some of those are people that need to be amputated. Wellness takes discipline. It takes consistency. It takes time. Give your body grace. It takes time for that healing process to happen. It does not happen overnight. You didn't get sick overnight. You're not going to heal overnight. So be realistic. And then tell your body even out loud how much you appreciate what it has done for you. Involve yourself in community, specifically accountability. I mean, the studies have shown that, even people who are on a weight loss journey, right, they're going to lose 50% more weight if they just track their diet. What the basic things is you're writing down what you're putting in your mouth every single day. You're going to lose 50% more weight than you would if you didn't write it down. So accountability is key. Finding someone that you trust and that can help you through that journey as well. Assess what you feed your body, what your mind and your soul. And we're going to dive into those a little bit more importantly. By the way, symptoms always start first, right? Like, you don't wake up one day and just have a high blood pressure. You don't wake up one day and get diagnosed with cancer. These things take time to develop. And typically, we're going to have some symptoms before the disease process sets in, spiritually as well, right? We don't just overnight just succumb to an addiction. You have to feed that sin for it to become habitual, right? So being aware of these things before the disease process actually starts coming into play. I think I deleted a slide. There you go. Is that the same one? Go to the next one, Amy. I just lost one. Okay, assess what you're feeding your body. So obviously if you're eating clean, right, you're trying to get nourishing meals, free from too much sugar, free from too much artificial sweeteners. If it's packaged, if it has a label, really consider that's probably not a whole food. Focus primarily on things that are whole foods, meaning they're minimally processed, they're produce, they're healthy fruits, meats, those kinds of things, eggs, some healthy dairy. You just want to, shop outside the outer aisles of the grocery store is a pretty good indicator that you're going to get a healthier whole meal. Make sure they're balanced, protein, fats, and carbohydrates, and you don't want to skip too many meals, right? Supplementation, I highly believe in supplementation. I'll be honest with you, it's really hard to get what you need from your diet. So basic supplementation, things like fish oil and vitamin D and probiotics for your gut health. Those most people can take without any problems. By the way, this is not medical advice. These are just general guidelines. So disclaimer, you're supposed to talk with your doctor. Avoid too much alcohol, too much caffeine, tobacco, obviously. Make sure you move your body. The general recommendation is about 3 to 4 days a week, 30 to 45 minutes at a time. Break a sweat. Sweating is a fantastic way to help support your endorphins in your body. It helps burn off a lot of toxins. So sweating out those toxins is important. And avoiding toxins. We are bombarded with toxins in our environment. I do a lot of hormone replacement therapy and hormonal balancing. And one of the key ways that we can get hormones in the body is we put them on the skin. They're called topical hormones. They go straight to the bloodstream. They don't have to be metabolized by the liver. They go straight to where they need to go to help improve our physical health. But the same thing for the toxins you put on your skin, things that you wash your hair in, things that you wash your laundry detergent in. If you're using traditional cleaning, conventional agents, Lysol, Clorox, all the good stuff that is clean because you can smell the chemicals in it, it is toxic for you. Those things do add up. And again, women are just more susceptible to that stuff. I'll give you a little bit of resource because I don't want to spend too much time on that. But the environmentalworkinggroup.org compiles a list of clean living for you. So check that out. It's free. And then drinking water. General rule is about half your body weight in ounces a day. Make sure you are drinking clean, filtered water and not filling up on a whole bunch of sodas and other things that we know for sure, without a doubt, are inflammatory for our body. By the way, if you didn't already, I think there's one left. There's one water bottle left. I'm asking you to drink water, so I gave you a container to put it in. Not that any of us are short on any containers of water bottles, I'm sure of it. Also gave you a little gratitude journal, because gratitude that we're going to talk about is super important to kind of feed your mind, and writing down things that you're grateful for every day, keeping that at the forefront of our mind. Just kind of helps us put into a state of gratitude and optimism, right? And then also there is a little mini facial on there for you. We have at our office, we do facials, and our girl is phenomenal. And that self-care, that 30 minutes of just someone rubbing on your skin, making you feel good. So take advantage of that as well on your way out. But also being mindful, not what you're feeding your body, but what you're feeding your mind. What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you putting in? What are you reading? Some just basic things. Maybe replacing that secular radio with more of a Christian, uplifting radio, podcast. Switching out some of our love romance novels. They're not bad. They're just not bad. And again, it's fine and balanced. But maybe switching one out for what I call the self-help books, right? The nonfiction that are meant to kind of encourage our brains and help them to grow and develop. And then obviously social media. We all know that can be a bad place for some people. So just set your limits on that. Assess what you're feeding your soul. Call out those addictions. Call out those little tiny baby sins that you're fueling, and that fire keeps burning within. Call out those unhealthy habits that we're starting. Practicing worship, prayer, reading. This needs to be a daily thing. Sharing your trauma. Find a safe place to share that trauma and get that out of you. And it's a Pandora's box, right? You don't want to just blurt out all your trauma on the next person that you meet. That's probably not healing. But finding a good Christian counselor, finding a good mentor or friend that's a safe, healthy place for you to start talking through those traumas. Social interaction, finding community, giving back and donating your time, your energy, your efforts, your money, whatever you can do to social community service. The Hickory Christian Academy is supporting, I can't remember the name of it, but they've got a walk this weekend to support the Pregnancy Care Center. It's a walk for life. I think it's a great way for us to get out there, move our bodies, but also give back to a really needy, amazing organization that's pro-life. Also, journaling. We just talked about that gratitude journal that's life-changing for a lot of people. So just kind of in closing, again, this is not meant to shame or judge, but really to encourage you that God wants to create beauty from the ashes, from the rubble. Isaiah 61:3 says, "And I provide for those who grieve in Zion," which is Jerusalem, "to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor." Again, we are his masterpiece. We need to appreciate that and receive that. The devil doesn't want us healthy. He wants us sick. He wants us unhealthy. He wants us tired. He wants us at home alone by ourselves in darkness and in our sin. But we are daughters of the Most High God, and we can serve each other and we can serve the Lord better if we are well. The other thing is people need hope. Like, this is also to kind of bring you hope that healing is possible. I've seen it. I've seen radical healing in people who have been sick for decades of their life. And some of them have fallen into that. I've heard so many times, "I don't really know if you can help me, but I'm coming to you as the last freaking resort. I've got nothing else. I'm giving it all. It's an investment for me, and I'm willing to do anything it takes." And they are surprised at how good that their bodies can feel once they start their healing journey. So wellness is not just a luxury. It's a commandment. It's a responsibility. Romans 12:1 says, "And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all that he has done for you." He died on the cross for those bodies that we keep telling is ugly and is fat and is lazy, right? He died for those bodies. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind that he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. And then 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20, "Don't you realize that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you and was given to you by God himself? You do not belong to yourself, for God brought you with a very high price. So you must honor it, and then you are worthy of wellness." I think a lot of times that we do kind of put ourselves down, that we're not worthy of achieving that wellness. Again, I'd rather go, instead of going to the gym or instead of going out with friends, I'm just going to, give my kids an extra toy that they do not need, right? So invest in ourselves, invest in our wellness. Remember to put your own mask on first. Super important. I had some additional questions at the end, but I can't find them. So do you have them up there, Amy? I was going to take some questions. Does anybody have any questions for me? I know this subject can be a little intimidating sometimes and a little personal, and I totally get that. But if anybody has any just questions about my journey, my healing, or anything else? All right, I'm going to hang out for a little bit longer later. If you have any questions, I'll be around. We got 10 more minutes to maybe have like a brief discussion at the table, and then Crystal will close us in prayer. So I know this is a little vulnerable for us to do, but I think it'd be a really good opportunity for us to, oh, sorry, Siri, go away. For us to have just a brief discussion at the table. There's that one question at the top: in what ways has God provided beauty in ashes in your life? And how can we stay focused on those areas of wellness throughout the journey ahead? And then throughout this week, if you want to maybe take a picture of that, I've kind of given you a little challenge to Focus on the things that are hindering you from the wellness and lay those at the feet of Jesus this week. Ask God to clearly show you the areas in your life that are unwell and allow Him to guide you to healing. And then also call a friend or a family member. There's a lot of people out there that are sick, that are hurting, and probably not even near as good off as we are, that couldn't even make it today because of their physical, emotional, mental state. Call them and ask them how you can pray for them and that you see them, that you recognize them. Let them know that they're still a part of your community. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Let's just maybe take 8 minutes or so at your table talking about the first part, and then Crystal will end us in prayer.